So, continuing from where we left off yesterday, we saw Arjuna was fighting Bhishma Deva, and he was fighting in such a fierce way that he promised, right? He made a promise that I will fight so fiercely that if Krishna, who promised not to take up weapons, he will have to take up weapons. Otherwise, Arjuna will not be able to be saved, right? So, and Krishna took up the chariot wheel of a broken chariot that was lying on the battlefield. He raised it above his head and he rushed towards Bhishma Deva, right? And for this, he became known as, does anybody remember? Ratangapani, right? Ratanga means the chariot wheel, lifting it above his head, right? Ratangapani, one who lifted the chariot wheel and rushed to Bhishma, right? And when he rushed to Bhishma, Bhishma dropped all his weapons and he offered his prayers. Because as I said, Bhishma Deva is a great devotee, he is a Mahajan. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Yamaraj describes Bhishma Deva as one of the 12 Mahajans who know the secret of confidential devotional service, right? So Bhishma Deva drops his weapons, and what does Krishna do? All the while, he's dragging Arjuna, right? Arjuna is saying, please Krishna, no. Because Arjuna is also a friend of Krishna, right? He understands that Krishna made a promise. At least back then, people's words meant something, right? They lived and died by their word back then, right? So Arjuna knew that Krishna made a promise, and because Krishna is very dear to Arjuna, he does not want anybody to defame Krishna, right? Because it's for his sake that he took up the weapon, right? Because he was also fighting half-heartedly, because he was very attached to Bhishma Deva. Bhishma Deva practically raised the Pandavas, and Arjuna in particular was very dear. He was the most favorite of Bhishma Deva, right? So he was fighting half-heartedly as well, because he didn't want to harm Bhishma Deva was his grandfather, basically, right? So he promised Krishna, oh Krishna, I will fight seriously, put down your weapon. And so Krishna, just as quickly as he seems like he got angry, his anger just went away like nothing, because he was playing, right? He did that to, as I said, uphold Bhishma's promise over his own. So this is why he's praised by the devotees, who upholds his devotees' promises even more than himself, right? For this reason, he's Bhakta Vatsala. He's famous as the Lord who caretakes or upholds his devotees, right? Who looks after them, right? So Vatsalya means like the parent, to look after, right? So he's like that to his devotees. Now, the battle continues, and Krishna tells Arjuna, well, we're not defeating Bhishma, so why don't you go ask him how to defeat him? They didn't think of anybody asking him, right? Because he was undefeatable. As I told you, he got the boon that he will only die when he wants to. And he is also trained by Lord Parashurama in warfare. So he is undefeatable, right? So Arjuna goes and he asks him, how will we defeat you? Actually, Maharaj Yudhishthira goes and asks, right? So they ask, and Bhishma Deva reveals, he says, if you bring a female in front of me, I will not pick up weapons against the female. And he recognized that one of the sons of Drupad, who is Draupadi, you all know Draupadi is the wife, the very famous wife of the Pandavas. Her father had another son, right? And the name escapes me now, so you'll have to forgive me. That can be a research. You can look at what is the name of Drupad's son, right? No, not Drishtadyumna.
No.
Drishtadyumna and Draupadi were born together, but they had another son. He had another son.
Shakuni.
No, not Shakuni. Shakuni was the uncle
of the
Kauravas.
Yes.
He was Gandhari's brother, right?
Yeah.
So there is a story. If you remember, there were 3 princesses which Bhishma had kidnapped, right, from Kashi. Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika.
Yes.
Right? Ambika and Ambalika married Vichitravirya, right? And that's how the lineage was coming, as I related to you yesterday. Amba was in love with another king, but she was afraid to say anything when Bhishma was bringing them, right? But when they got there, she said her mind, and they said, "Oh, we're very sorry, we'll send you back." But she went back to that king who was going to pick her in the Swayamvar, and they were planning to get married, but he said, "No, I don't take charity."
Yeah.
And that's the way of the Kshatriyas, they don't accept charity. So he said, "No, I could not defeat Bhishma in battle and win you, therefore I cannot accept you as my wife, because you always look down on me," right? So he rejected her. Now she came back and told Bhishma, "You will have to marry me now." Bhishma says, as I told you yesterday, he swore, "I will never have children," right? I will never marry, I will never know a woman. This was the promise he gave so that his father could get married, right? So he refused. Amba then goes and complains to Lord Parshuram, Bhishma Deva's teacher and guru. Lord Parshuram has a fight with Bhishma, and even Lord Parshuram loses to Bhishma. So this is how great Bhishma Deva is, right? And he offers his obeisances to Lord Parshuram, and Lord Parshuram turns to Amba, and he says to her, nothing that can be done now. So she gives up her life, and she gets a boon that in her next life she will be the cause of the death of Bhishma. And so she was born to Drupad, right? But Bhishma Deva was a very elevated personality, and he could see and he knew who that person was. He knew it was Amba, and he always thought of him as Amba, right? And so he always considered her, or him or her, really, right? So when they found this out, they brought him in front on the same chariot as Arjuna, and he stood in front. And every time Bhishma Deva would try to fire the arrow towards Arjuna, he would see this person standing on the chariot, and he would not shoot, right? And this made him vulnerable, right? Because then you're in a war and you're not fighting anybody either. You're fighting the great Arjuna, right? And he's a man who could single-handedly defeat all the Gandharvas, all the Devtas by himself, right? He's not also an easy warrior to just walk over, right? So these small little hindrances, or pausing in the field of battle, Arjuna was able to shoot, and Krishna told Arjuna, "Bring down Bhishma, because if you do not bring down Bhishma, this war will never end." And so Arjuna solidified his heart, and he made his decision, because he promised Shri Krishna to do so, right? And did you find the name?
Yes, Shikandi.
Shikandi. Yeah. So that was his name, Shikandi, right? So Bhishma Deva gets arrows all over his body to the point he could keep still fighting. But Arjuna filled his body with so many arrows that he did not have an option. He could not fire anymore. He could not fight anymore. He simply fell down on the battlefield on a bed of arrows. There's very many paintings you might have seen, very famous, Bhishma Deva lying on the bed of arrows, right? And because he had the boon to not die until he wanted, he held on to his life because he wanted to know what was the outcome of the war. Because remember, he had promised to always look after the kingdom, right? And he wanted to make sure before he left his body that the kingdom would be in safe hands. And he actually wanted Yudhishthira Maharaj to be the ruler, because he knew that Yudhishthira was the most qualified person. So he waited. And he also waited, said, for an auspicious time to leave his body, when the sun is going into the northern direction, right? It is considered an auspicious time to leave one's body, right? So he's a powerful yogi as well. So he held on to his life for that period of time. So there was months that went by, right? Now why am I telling you all this? Is that in that time, Bhishma Deva is taken out, and over time the Pandavas win the battle. Maharaj Yudhishthira is crowned king of Hastinapur, the Duryodhana is killed along with all the other Kauravas. And what happens is that Maharaj Yudhishthira is inconsolable. You have to remember, Maharaj Yudhishthira is Dharma Raja, right? That was another name for him, Dharma Raja. He was so adherent to Dharma, and he so lamented that so many people died in this war. And he felt that it was only for his attainment of the kingdom. So he felt great burden that so many people had to give up their lives for him to become the king. And nobody could console him. Not Vyasadeva, who I told you is the incarnation of the Lord himself, also his grandfather, the wisest of sages. Not even Shri Krishna, whom Maharaj Yudhishthira always worshipped as the Supreme Lord. So why is this? It said that Krishna wanted to show the greatness of Bhishma Deva. Right? So Krishna told Maharaj Yudhishthira, he said, okay, you're not listening to either me or Vyasadeva or any of the other saints and sages that are in your assembly. Why don't we go and listen to Bhishma Deva? He is still on the battlefield and he's waiting for an auspicious time to leave his body. So we should go there and you should place your questions before him. So they go and Bhishma Deva welcomes them. And Maharaj Yudhishthira, cutting it short, he asks so many questions and Bhishma Deva relates answers to all of these questions. Now, a thing to meditate upon for all of us in this pastime is something that Bhishma Deva tells Maharaj Yudhishthira. He tells him, oh, how strange is it? Great saints and sages meditate on the idea of karma and trying to understand how is the intricate nature of karma working, right? But yet none of them has come to a conclusion. Look at yourselves. He's saying yourselves, the Pandavas, as an example, along with your mother. Despite being the sons of Pandu, the great Chakravarti or emperor, right? Despite being the grandsons of Vyasadeva, despite always having great saints and sages always in your assembly giving you advice on how to act, what not to do, and what to do, and despite always having personally with you all the time Sri Krishna himself, you still are suffering and had to suffer so many things. Right? Because a lot of times nowadays, as I said at the beginning, when I started speaking on Friday, Krishna Janmastami was a day that was celebrated for at least a week, right? Every day. And it would, as we know, Janmashtami takes place at midnight.
Yep.
So the celebration would go until midnight because Krishna doesn't appear until midnight, right? So everybody would fast, full fast, for that entire day, waiting until midnight, and then what would they be doing? Kirtan, Harikatha, right? For the entire time.
Yeah.
Stay up the entire night, and then when dawn breaks, then they would break their fast, right? But it was the week-long celebration. But nowadays, nobody is interested really so much. Why? Because when we see all these things, when all these bad, negative things happen to us in our lives, we quickly blame Sri Krishna.
Krishna.
Oh, I've done so much for you, and therefore I'm suffering. You don't exist, really. This is what we say. We might do things outside for society to believe us, but internally, this is how we actually feel, right? Otherwise, this place would be full with people. And it wouldn't be an excuse, oh, there's other mandirs or there's other occasions going on. Even then, when you go to a party, you see so many people, right? Why? Because people want to enjoy, right? And they see that, oh, why do I worship the Lord? I don't get any enjoyment. Just look at the Pandavas. They just suffered their entire life, right?
Yeah.
Look at Prahlad. He just suffered how many things he had to suffer from his own father, right? And this way, and it goes on and on. All the devotees, you read, all their lives are full of trials and tribulations, right? So why? But what you have to understand is that we should not also blame someone. Sometimes when something bad happens to people, we blame, oh, that's their karma, right? A part of it may be, right? It is known as prarabdha karma. I won't get into a long discussion on it. But we get a lot of karma that builds up over many lifetimes. We don't get all of it at once. Only the ones who are about to fructify do we get. And it's a small amount, right? And it comes with either good and bad results, right? It's not always bad. It's sometimes very good results, sometimes very negative results. So we get those. But even then, that is not the only thing, right? We get issues that come from ourselves. This is called adhyatmic problems, right? They come from our own activities, our own body, our own mind, our own intelligence, our own ego causes these issues for us. That's only one reason for issues for us, right? They can say, okay, that's our own karma and everything, right? And there's adi bhautik. That problems which are caused by other living entities. Sometimes you'll see people don't like you for no good reason. That's just their nature. You can't do anything about it. So don't worry your head over it. You're only making yourself miserable, right? This is just the nature of people. Also the nature of like viruses, the nature of insects, all these things. These are adi bhautik problems that are caused, right? We have no control. These living entities might just be living their life, right? A mosquito bites you. What is the mosquito doing? If the female mosquito is biting you, she's using the blood to feed her children, right? But we find it as a nuisance. And then there's adi-daivik. Adi-daivik problems are just the natural disturbances that come and go with being in this world, right? We have no control over that either, but it caused many issues for us, right? Whether you might be the most pious person or the most wicked person, doesn't really matter, right? That's just the nature of the world. Therefore, Shri Krishna, who is the ultimate authority, calls this world Dukkalayam Ashashvatam. Dukkalayam means a world full of misery. It is a place of misery only, O Arjuna. And it is Ashashvatam, it is temporary only. No matter how good things might be, they will go away. No matter how good things may be, they'll go away, right? Bad or good, it keeps coming back and forth, right? That's just the nature of the world. So this Bhishma Deva talks to Maharaj Yudhishthira and he calms him down, right? And finally, Bhishma Deva is satisfied. Maharaj Yudhishthira is consoled and he's satisfied, and he simply says, he has a prayer and he says to Shri Krishna, now, if I may ask you, please come in front so that I may see you more closely, right? I can't see, my vision is fading now. Please come close so I can see you. And so Bhishma Deva kept looking at Shri Krishna, right? And what was he thinking? And he says it himself in Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, kept looking at you, and what is he thinking? He's thinking about Parthasarathi, right? This vision of Krishna on the chariot, holding the reins, and he's pulling Arjuna across the battlefield. Dust raising, rolling across his hair. Arrows, his own arrows, Bhishma Deva's arrows, firing and piercing Arjuna and Krishna all over their bodies, right? Krishna doesn't mind, he's pulling off the arrows and he's going. The blood is forming from his wounds. And he's imagining this. Why is he imagining this? Because he says, oh, as I said, Krishna is the Lord of the heart, right? He meditates on Shri Krishna as that personality who, despite not having to do anything, as I told you, his iconography is such that he's just playing the flute, right? He has nothing to do. Right? He tells this to Krishna, Arjuna himself, oh Parth, I have nothing to do, yet I still do my duties to set a good example for everybody else. right? So he has nothing to do, but he took up such a hard task. Out of what? Simply out of love
Right.
for his friend, Arjuna. Right? So, this is what Bhishma Deva meditates on. And in this way, he merges into Shri Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
right? As his eternal servant, right? And the flower, all the Devis and Devtas, they shower flowers on Bhishma Deva, right? Conches are blowing, drums are beating, all these things, and Bhishma Deva leaves, right? So with that, I will just stop it there today. It is, and I promised, actually I might say a couple more minutes, because I had told Sahadev Ji that I would tell him the this pastime is Kurukshetra, right? Kurukshetra. This is not the first time that Sri Krishna has come to Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra was even a pious place even back then, 5,000 years ago. Why was it a pious place? Because there Lord Brahma did austerities. There Maharaj Kuru did austerities. That's why it's called Kurukshetra. It's named after Kuru, Maharaj Kuru, who was the descendant of the ancestor of the Pandavas and Kauravas, right? And there Lord Parshurama also did austerities after he destroyed the Kshatriyas 21 times, right? So it was a well-known place of austerities. Now, one time during Sri Krishna's life on this earth, before the Kurukshetra war took place, there was going to be a solar eclipse. And it is said in our Shastras that when there is a solar eclipse, it is extremely beneficial and pious to go to Kurukshetra and take a bath and perform worship there. So, at that time, all the Vrishnis, Krishna was living in Dwarka at that time, they all come. And all the residents of Vrindavan, Maharaj Nanda, Maharaj Yashoda Mai, all the gopis and gopas, Krishna's friends, all the cows, they all also come to Kurukshetra. And this is the first time that Sri Krishna is going to see them since he left Vrindavan. Remember, he left Vrindavan when he was around 11 to 16 years old, right? Around that time. There's some people that have like differing, but around that time. And he told them, "Oh Maya, I will just be gone a couple days." Right? Now, decades have gone by, and he's coming. And the inhabitants of Vraj also come, and they rush to the tent that Sri Krishna is in with his family, and the guards stop them because just anybody can go and because he's the king, right? So they stop them. "Who are you?" "We are his parents." Now the guards are confused. Who are they saying are his parents? But Vasudevji heard, and he said, "No, don't stop them, please let them come." And then they see Krishna, right? And they say to Krishna, "Oh, Krishna, where is your flute? Are you really the same Krishna? Are you the same Nandalal? Where you don't have your flute, you don't have your peacock feather, you're dressed in royal robes, we don't recognize you. You're not the same person. You are not our Krishna." And this is a point for another time maybe. There's a big discussion in Gaudiya Vaishnavism actually. We differentiate between Dwarkadish Krishna, Mathureshwar Krishna, and Vrajendra Nandana Krishna, right? We worship Vrajendra Nandana Krishna. The other two, we don't have any story with. Right? This is the Vrajavasis thing, right? So, what they do, they say, they look at Krishna and they understand, they know Krishna's heart. They know Krishna wants to go back with them. He is not actually happy. And the other saints and sages, they relate this. One saint, Surdas, he relates in a bhajan, Krishna telling Uddhava, "Oh, Uddhava, I cannot forget Vraja. This place may be very nice, Mathura may be very nice, but I cannot forget Vraja." And in this way, the other saints and sages, they relate how Krishna cries bitterly, always, in the inner chambers of the palace of Dwarka. He's always crying to go back home. But he's staying there to fulfill his duty. Because as I said, yada yada hi dharmasya, he promises this. This is for our sake that he's doing all this. But he doesn't give up his duty, right? He's crying. He's suffering, but we don't think the Lord suffers. We only look at our own suffering, right? So the Vrajavasis see this right away. When you love someone and you raise them, as soon as you see their face, you know something's wrong, right? Even though other people don't see it. So they see Krishna's face and they say, "Oh no, we cannot leave you here." They're dragging him. We'll take you back to Vraj now. And this pastime is actually reenacted always in Jagannath Puri, where it has Ratha Yatra. There are three deities there: Krishna, Baladeva, who's called Balaram, and Subhadra, who is their younger sister. And the pastime is they're pulling that chariot with the three of them. They take them out of the temple, put them on the chariot, and they're pulling them. And for the Gaudiyas, this is them, they're pulling them back to Vraja. Right? So this is what it's reenacting. So when Krishna speaks, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, at the end he says, "Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha." And one saint comments that when Krishna gets to the point where he says Vraja, he remembers Vraja. And you can see he doesn't actually say anything much after that. He wraps up, right, Bhagavad Gita, because he himself, oh, that Vraja, that is my heart, is Vraja, right? And he stops. Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So this is just just an offering to Sri Krishna, that we understand the Lord is the Lord of the heart. He is more human than all of us put together. It is we who are following after him. That is why we are human. We're considered human, right? But he is the original person. When we say Bhagavan, it means the supreme personality of Godhead. He's a person, right? So he also has a very tender, loving heart, right? And he's always working for our benefits, though we might not see it and appreciate it. So with that, we'll stop there and say Nrsimha prayers. Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadadhayine Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Shilatam Kanakalaye Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimho Yato yami tato Narsimha Bahir Narsimho Ridhaye Narsimho Narsimhamadim Sharanam Prapati Tava Kara Kamala Varinakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadvita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Narahari Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Narahari Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव। श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भगवान की जय, श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री गुरुदेव की जय, श्री कृष्ण चंद्र भगवान की जय। जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे श्याम।